Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. We have a very important topic to talk about, and that is NATO is threatening a preemptive strike on Russia as the situation between Russia, Ukraine, NATO, the United States continues to unravel. NATO is now pressing forward and has floated the suggestion that they could justify a preemptive strike on Russia as a defensive action. So there's a lot of interesting stuff to get into here. Obviously, the Russians are none too pleased about this threat from NATO, but this is what happens when you push, you prod, you test the limits. Eventually, at some point, people are going to start pushing back, and now we have the threat of a preemptive strike or bombing or whatever option NATO might choose is now on the table. So we're going to break it all down. We also have some new attack footage. But before we get into it, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys nothing at all. Huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. Should NATO strike Russia? Should NATO push back on Russian aggression? Let me know all your thoughts on the situation in the comments below. You guys have been excellent there. I love seeing the conversations you guys have. Hit that bell, all notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X, Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are wide open. Please reach out with any tips you got. And then you can find the membership link for exclusive perks and access in the video description and in the pinned comment. Now, let's get into it. We have watched Russia carry out a series of different activities against NATO countries that some could even be counted as an act of war. The most notable one was Russian agents snuck into Poland and blew up a rail line that connects Poland to Ukraine. So secret Russian agents, members of the GRU is believed to be the agency responsible, snuck into Poland, blew up the rail line, and then snuck out and made it to Belarus and probably are way back deep inside Russia at this point. The Polish likely will never be able to find them. But that is not the only thing that has happened. Russia has also flown fighter jets into NATO airspace over Estonia and Lithuania. They have sent drones into a variety of different NATO countries, including drones to a base where the U.S. has nukes housed there. So this situation, the jets were not shot down. Some of the drones were shot down. President Trump did say he did want to see those jets get shot down if they do it again. So we'll see whether or not NATO makes good on that threat. Now, NATO has been debating whether or not they want to take serious violent action against Russian aggression, including but not limited to shooting down the Russian jets. Well, now it sounds like one of the options on the table, I'm going to put this on the screen for you. One of the options on the table would actually be a preemptive strike. So this comes from The Independent. NATO considering preemptive action against Russia's hybrid warfare attacks. The chair of NATO's military committee says a more aggressive approach may be needed to deter Putin. So it says right here, NATO is considering preemptive action against Russia following a string of hybrid attacks on Europe, a senior official in the alliance has warned. Italian Admiral Giuseppe Cavo Dragoni, who serves as the chair of the NATO military committee, said the alliance may need to adopt a more aggressive approach to deter Moscow from continuing its campaign of drone incursions and cyber attacks in Europe. A recent Financial Times investigation revealed how NATO has put on high alert after 3 vessels in the Baltic Sea were accused of dragging anchors to damage energy and communication cables, with a total of 11 incidents. Other incidents include regular cyber attacks on multiple European countries and incursion of Russian drones into NATO airspace. Dragone told the Financial Times that the alliance was studying everything and deciding how to respond. On cyber, we are kind of reactive. Being more aggressive or being proactive instead of reactive is something we're thinking about. He acknowledged that such an approach would be unusual for NATO, but the new tactics may be required as the war in Ukraine nears its 4th year. Dragone argued a preemptive strike by NATO could be considered defensive action despite it being further away from our normal way of thinking and behavior. Being more aggressive compared with the aggressivity of our counterpart could be an option. He's talking about Russia. The issues are legal framework, jurisdictional framework, and who is going to do it. So he is saying, in no uncertain terms, we might carry out a preemptive strike on Russia. So we might hit Russia proper before they are able to hit us. We're going to go in to Russia. Does that mean they're going to bomb them? Does that mean they're going to send troops in? Does that mean they're going to sink ships? I honestly don't know the answer, but they are arguing. The head of the military committee of NATO is saying we can do this because it is a defensive action after everything Russia has done to us. So they want to deter further Russian aggression. And one of the ways they're going to do this is possibly with a preemptive strike. This is very significant. This is the first time something like this, to my knowledge, has ever been said that, hey, listen, we might strike first. Because for those of you who don't know, a preemptive strike, by definition, is you hit someone before they can hit you. Generally, you do this because you think an attack could be coming or an attack is imminent. So you decide, hey, we're not going to wait around and risk getting hit. We're going to go in and hit them first. Well, this, as you might expect, did not sit too well with the Russians. So I'm going to put this on the screen. This is from Reuters. Russia says NATO remarks on preemptive strikes are irresponsible and escalatory. Russia said on Monday that remarks by NATO's most senior military officer that the U.S.-led military alliance could consider a preemptive strike to be extremely irresponsible and attempt to move forward towards escalation. So it just says there, again, the admiral says they might do a preemptive strike in response to Russian aggression. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the remarks were seen by Moscow as an extremely irresponsible step, indicating the alliance's readiness to continue towards military escalation. We see it as a deliberate attempt to undermine efforts to overcome the Ukraine crisis. The people making such statements should be aware of the risks and possible consequences, including for the alliance members themselves. So Russia, as you would expect, is not happy at all about this situation. They are not happy that NATO went out and said, hey, guess what? We might actually bomb you first. We might attack you first. We're not going to wait for you to do it to us. Now, the argument NATO is making is that Russia has already done this. Russia has already attacked NATO with the drones, with the fighter jets, with all of the air incursions, with the bombing in Poland. The bombing in Poland is a crystal clear-cut act of war. So NATO would likely be able to use that and say, hey, guess what? You already came into NATO territory and you blew up a key critical target, and you did it with secret agents so that you could have plausible deniability or claim your fingerprints weren't attached, which is a classic Russian move. But they're not going for it. Now, as this is going on, we continue to see more and more attacks from both sides. So it says footage from Ukraine's most recent cruise missile strike in the Russian city of Taganrog. Seen here, a Ukrainian long Neptune cruise missile screams down before slamming into its target. So let's watch this. Sure, it's good to go.
Не снимай туда, ой, блядь. Не снимай туда, ой, блядь.
You can see just a massive
Не снимай туда, ой,
explosion.
блядь.
And then here we've got footage. So this is of a Russian oil refinery getting hit, getting smoked out.
Пизда. О, боже.
And then as well as that, I know we made a video, or I mentioned this in a video before. The Ukrainians hit 2 oil tankers from Ukraine's Ghost Fleet, crippling them and putting them out of business. So Russia's Ghost Fleet. Russia's Ghost Fleet is a fleet of oil tankers that they use to skirt around sanctions to be able to continue to sell oil and make money and fund the war machine. Let's go ahead and I'll speed this up a little bit for you. Let's go ahead and watch this. So you can see the attack drones are coming in right here. And they hit the ship. There's no audio for this. I had to mute it so I don't get in trouble with YouTube. But there you go. Another explosion on the ship. Coming in. Boom. Looks like they're attacking the rear of the ship, it looks like. I'm not an expert on how oil tankers are built, but it appears both ships were hit in the rear. And then those were not the only oil tankers. So it says Ukrainian drones reportedly attacked and damaged the oil tanker Mersin off the coast of Senegal. The tanker was exporting Russian oil from the port of Taman. So they literally went all the way to Senegal to hit another Russian oil tanker. So they are now carrying out attacks on Russian oil far outside the region of the war. Senegal is nowhere near, I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers away, and the Ukrainians are now hitting oil targets at that distance. So I'm going to pull this off the screen. So we've got NATO threatening preemptive strikes. You got Russia flipping out. You got Ukraine continuing to carry out more strikes. You got the Russians continuing to carry out more strikes. This situation, I've said it once, I've said it a million times, I'm going to say it again, is going to get worse before it gets better. That is the fact of the matter. That is the reality of the situation. This situation is going to get worse with all sides involved before you see it get better. NATO coming out and saying we might preemptively strike Russia, that is a huge step up the escalation ladder. That is a huge, huge, huge step. And we should take it incredibly seriously, because if Russia gets hit, do you think Russia is just going to take that? You think if NATO bombs Russia, they're just going to say, oh, well, that seems fair, seems reasonable. We blew your stuff up in Poland. Now you can blow our stuff up. No, they would immediately start striking NATO targets. And then NATO would, of course, immediately start hitting more Russian targets. That is how this works. That is how the escalation ladder works. And you would see in a very quick order a chain of events that then could spiral into World War III. So that needs to be considered. Do we want World War III? Can we limit the strikes to make sure there is no World War III and we don't race up the escalation chain? These are all things that need to be considered, because I can promise you this: if NATO bombs Russia, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, Russia's done a lot of wrong things, including attacking a NATO country. So they would have justification for doing it. But we need to have a clear mind about this. Russia will strike back, and NATO will then continue to strike, and it'll be tit for tat. Now, don't get me wrong. In a conventional war, NATO would wipe the floor with Russia. They would wipe the floor with Russia. That is a guaranteed fact. So that's where we are as of December 1st when I'm filming. It's crazy. It's already December, by the way. Feels like just yesterday it was September. But here we are in December. December 1st is when I'm making this video. Those are the updates as of today. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this situation? Do you think NATO should strike Russia? How do you think Russia will respond to a preemptive NATO attack? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free. Cost you guys absolutely nothing. Huge, huge, huge boost to the channel. Hit that notification bell. All notifications turn on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X, D Hookstead. That's where you can find me online. My DMs are wide open. Send me any tips you got. And the link to join our members only exclusive perks and access is in the video description and in the pinned comment below. I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you all next time.